discussing? Good evening. Welcome to the September 10th, 2024 regular board meeting of the Tehachapi Governing Board. Roll call, Ms. Barnes.
President Kaminsky,
Here.
Vice President Kelly,
Here.
Clerk Wood,
Here.
Trustee Cooper,
Here.
Trustee Napier,
Here.
Trustee Sweeney,
Here.
Superintendent Larson Everson,
Here.
and I'm Deanna Barnes.
Yeah, and of course, I didn't, like last time, I didn't mention the time. It's 5 o'clock. And now our next item is flag salute and moment of silent reflection, and tonight will be led by Robin Hall, our daycare manager. Ms. Hall?
Everyone has risen. Ready? Begin. America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Keep standing for a silent reflection. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Item 2, approval of the agenda. With that, before I ask for a motion, we will be tabling the CSEA closed session item. That's number 1 on item 13, which is the closed session. So that will not be on our agenda tonight. Now, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It was motioned by Clerk Wood and seconded by Trustee Cooper to approve the agenda as presented with the removal of number 13 under closed session number 1, the closed session with the negotiator for CSEA. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Recognition of Capturing Kids' Hearts Student Greeters. Superintendent Larson Everson.
Thank you, President Kaminsky. It was nice to have greeters again back here in the boardroom, and I'd like to introduce you, if you haven't met them already, to this evening's greeters, who are all Tehachapi Independent Learning Academy students. I'm going to ask all 4 of them to come on up, and I'm going to tell you their names as they're coming up. We have 5th grader, Madi, 1st grader Gracie, 11th grader Dylan, and 8th grader Dylan, and 11th grader Cheyenne. And once again, these are all TILA students. I'll have you come right over here. There you go. So just stay with us for just a minute up here, basking in the glory of your wonderfulness. As you know, these engaging students joined us tonight as part of our recognition and modeling and highlighting of our Capturing Kids' Hearts program. They did a great job. They were poised. They were enthusiastic. I saw some handshaking and eye contact going on. And these are all qualities that we strive to promote and instill in our TUSD students. So at this time, I want to invite the board to come on up front and meet our greeters and officially thank them, and then we'll give them their gift.
Good job.
We'll have all 4 of you come
Thank you again, greeters, and have a good night. We appreciate you volunteering to help us out. And with that, we'll go to general function, superintendent update. Again, Superintendent Larson Everson.
Thank you very much. I see the PowerPoint is up. Good to see everybody. Once again, we're going to go to the next slide and just thank our greeters. It's nice to have students here in the boardroom, and if you didn't notice, when there's no students, there's no cookies. When there are students, there's cookies. So sweetens the deal just a little bit, I think, to have the students here. All right, so if we can go on to the next slide, we're going to continue our tradition this evening of sharing the good, and we do this through celebrating positives that are occurring throughout our campuses and throughout the district, and this is in alignment with the values of capturing kids' hearts and our district values. So we have a few hoorays to share tonight, and I'm going to start them, and then we have some representatives from our departments and school sites who are going to share as well. So first I wanted to talk about the Welcome Back event, which was held on August 12th, and it was held here in Central Park. We had a great turnout, as you can see, of certificated and classified staff. During the few hours that we spent together that day, we introduced new team members, we celebrated staff and their longevity milestones, and we shared a few general announcements as well about our open enrollment period, etc. You can go to the next slide, please. And the activities for the morning then turned to focus on teamwork and this year's theme of We Are TUSD. We talked about the 3 C's of teamwork: celebrate, communicate, and collaborate. And team members had the opportunity to engage in a lot of different short activities, but they seemed to have a lot of fun. You can go on to the next slide. And for the final activity of the morning, each team member was asked to reflect on what they value in a teammate and how they could be a better teammate themselves. These are just a few random examples, and you can see what their responses are. And this was their exit ticket for getting their T-shirt and leaving the event. So all in all, it was a really great couple of hours, good time spent together, focusing on our team and focusing on the school year ahead. I really wanted to also thank, before we talk about back to school night, just everybody who helped out that day at the Welcome Back event. It takes a lot of helping hands to make it happen. Maintenance, grounds, food service, a lot of people who didn't have to help, stayed late or came early and were helping with the setup, and it's just really wonderful to see everybody pitching in. So thank you to everybody who helped. All right, let's talk about back to school nights just for a minute. Over the past few weeks, back to school nights have been held at all of our TUSD schools, and in general, there's been a great turnout of parents and families attending. I want to thank our teachers for really making their classrooms shine and being so welcoming to our families. It's just nice to see the energy on campus, and kids are excited, parents are excited, and teachers have worked hard to really make their classrooms look great and welcoming for families. So thank you to everyone for that. Hooray! Oh, we're slacking on the hoorays tonight, so we're going to have to get serious because I'm going to invite Mrs. Ray to come up and share a hooray for Tompkins, and I think we need to do a good job in hooraying her when she's done.
Good evening. So I just wanted to correct Stacy really fast. I thought the 3 C's were Claire, Christina, and Christy. That's what we call ourselves, the 3 C's.
Those are the Tompkins 3 C's,
Oh,
but
okay.
the 3 C's of teamwork are celebrate, communicate, and collaborate.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. So ever since I got to Tompkins, we've been doing this really fun meet and greet for our TK and K students where administration takes them on a tour. Of course, we have to go up the slide and down the slide. I have a hard time getting off the slide, but that's just because it's so fun. And then we show them where the cafeteria is, and we take them to the library, and then we show them where the big playground is so they have something to aspire to, and then we drop them off in their classrooms so they can just meet their teacher. So it's a really fun event for the families and the students, and as you can see, there's some little ones in line there waiting to go on their tour.
Hooray! Thank you, Mrs. Ray. Mr. Antazari.
Thank you very much. So an opportunity for a hooray is the classroom furniture project for JMS and THS. I know we've spoken about it a lot because it was very expensive, but also it did take a lot of time. It was 5 months of input from stakeholders, finding the classrooms, finding the right furniture. And so just to bring it into perspective, we ended up with 1,376 new desks, 1,446 new chairs, 256 new science stools, going into over 50 classrooms. So hooray.
Hooray! Thank you, Mr. Antasari. And Ms. Markison?
Good evening, board. My name is Taylor Marquison. Over at our school, we are the very first round of the elementaries to have art with Mr. Nettles. So we're really excited to see how students are going to show all of their creative side. He has been a dream come true as far as getting everything scheduled and working with all of our amazing teachers. And I already have kids also bringing home art already, so really, really special.
Hooray! All right, Dr. Romero.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. So we started the school year fully staffed, 26 teachers. We worked really, really hard over the summer. We were one of the very, very few districts in Kern County fully staffed. So just want to share that. Thanks all for the new teachers that came on board.
Hooray! Thank you, Dr. Romero. And Dr. Porter?
Good evening. We have a hooray. We had a great start to the school year. Fiona Fox is there with some of our students, AKA Robin Hall, who led you in the pledge. She plays our Fiona Fox. And our middle school students are already working on experiments and challenges. So thank you.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Porter. Ms. Libatique?
Just kidding. Friday, August 30th was National Avid Day. We were fortunate enough to bring a team to the Avid conference this summer. We started an Avid elective in 9th grade, which is going really well. We wore our shirts that are, of course, green. And then in the background, you can see we also had a club fair that day. And also thank you, Mr. Antasari, for our new furniture, because back to school night felt very different with chairs that you could comfortably get into. So thank you.
Hooray! Thank you, Ms. Libatique. Mrs. Bailey?
Good evening. So it seems like forever ago, but we had a fabulous first day of school at Golden Hills Elementary. Our staff, students, parents, and families seemed so excited about the school year starting, and we had so many smiles and so many happy faces. And you know what? It's really, it does feel like a long time ago, even though it really wasn't that long ago, but it's just been a fantastic start to this whole school year, actually. So we are focusing on team over at Golden Hills, and we have a dream team. We're calling them the Golden Hills Dream Team, and we're just working on building and maintaining an awesome team, and we're super proud of them. So it's going really well.
Hooray! Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. And Mr. Bin and Ms. Goldstein?
Good evening. Our hooray is our awesome new game room that we have that we just opened up this year. It is part of both of our PBIS and our iReady incentive. Students will be able to earn Bulldog Bucks, and 10 Bulldog Bucks gets them into the game room for their lunchtime.
Hooray! Thank you, Mrs. Goldstein. I'm going to go on to the next slide and share a little sports update. Bear with me because I have a lot to report this evening with the start of the school year. So we're going to start off by talking about girls JV and varsity tennis. That as of August 29th, the Lady Warriors tennis had a solid start. They were able to take a bus and carry 21 young ladies to a huge event sponsored by KCTA, where our players were among 388 girls who attended. They received professional instruction from private coaches from all over Kern County. They also received free tennis gear and clothes as well as lunch, and many of the young ladies met and made friends with other young athletes from all over the country. And it was a fantastic start and a great morale booster for our Warriors. Currently, our varsity tennis Warriors are 4-0 with solid wins over Wasco, Taft, and Highland. Junior varsity tennis is also 4-0 with solid wins over Wasco, Taft, and Highland. The coaching team attributes this to the fact that they practice the junior varsity and varsity teams alongside each other, and they participate in the same drills, matches, and conditioning as the varsity team. The Lady Warriors tennis received new uniforms this season, and the style and fit has helped the Warriors to look and feel confident and comfortable on the courts. And for the young athletes, looking and feeling good helps them perform well. On to football. Varsity has a large roster this year with a lot of returning talent. They had a win against Burroughs. They fought hard and had a tough loss against Bakersfield Christian. And last week they had a great win of 41-0 against Taft Union High School. And this week they face off against Wasco. JV, as of September 6th, the JV football stands at 0 wins, 1 tie, and 1 loss. Their loss was at Bakersfield Christian, which was 35-22. They tied Burroughs with a score of 19-19, and the athletes are really working hard and giving an outstanding effort. I want to place a side note in here that the notes that I share with you are actually given by the coaches. So what they want to highlight for you, they write it and share it with me, and then I share it so that our community and all of you can know what these updates are. Okay, volleyball. Varsity started their season with a tough lineup. They're getting ready to play in a tournament in California City, September 13th and 14th, with a lot of new players. They are hopeful to really grow this season and have a good season. Annie Loken and Caden Killingsworth are standout returners. For the Froshsoft team, they had a tough preseason, but they're looking forward to league play, and the team is focusing on having fun and building lifelong bonds. For JV volleyball, they came off a 2-game win streak. They fought hard during a tough preseason, and they're looking forward to league play. They recently worked at the football game selling programs to help the Warrior Boosters and THS Athletics. Now for girls golf, they had their first match set for today, September 10th at River Lakes, and currently there are 15 girls golfers on the roster. Finally, for cross country, the THS Cross Country has been training hard and is opening their upcoming season hosting a scrimmage on Wednesday at Bright Lake. The season looks great ahead for the ladies, and they are returning our first team all-league runner sophomore Helena Casas and second team all-league runner junior Violet Casas. Other notable returners are junior Drew Sherman and senior Emma Gonzalez, a 4-year runner in the program and who's also the team captain. And moving up to varsity is junior Brianna Grimes, a league medalist from last year. And at the lower level, sophomore Katie Crookston returns to lead the Lady Braves, and Katie was also a league medalist last year. On the men's side of the roster, they have a 4-year runner and team captain Walker Fleming. Seniors James Adamson and Wyatt Hester return as team leaders also. League medalist junior William Crookston moves up to varsity competition this year to push THS and continue the great season from last year. Newcomer junior Dominic Martin and returning junior Kevin Chitwood are great additions to the varsity men's team. And at the lower levels, freshman Nixon Napier and freshman Jackson Jones look to make an impression and an imprint on league matches this season. On a side note, Coach Mike Heckathorn begins his 30th year of being at the head of the THS Cross Country program and looks at this group of young men and women as some of the finest Tehachapi has to offer athletically, academically, and citizenship-wise. And that concludes the sports update for this evening. Hooray! Hooray. All right, we're done with the hoorays and the updates on sports, so let's talk a little bit about current enrollment. You can see there on the slide that we're looking at week 3. Left-hand column is week 3 for last year. Right-hand column is week 3 for this year. Not tons of difference. When you get down to the bottom line, it's a difference of 63 students from this year to last year, which we're not overall pleased to see. But a little reminder, I have a note down there at the bottom that when we ended the school year for 23-24 in June, our enrollment was 4169. So you'll see these patterns happen throughout the school year where we go up and down, and it's something that overall we plan for within our budgeting and whatnot is about a 1% difference. So this is where we are right now, and every meeting will continue to provide an update and just keep you informed as to how our enrollment is looking. You can go to the next slide. This is attendance. And looking at that very top line, that's for 24-25. You'll see the percentages for week 2. Our attendance obviously runs a little bit behind enrollment because we have to give our schools time to collect the information, clear absences, and so forth. So you'll see the averages there district-wide. We're at 94.80. One thing I do want to share is that unfortunately, we've had a little bit of a resurgence of COVID at the start of this year. I'm looking at Deanna because in our office we get all the COVID reporting, and I would say it really hasn't slowed down since the start of the school year. There's been a steady flow every day with some cases coming in, both student and staff. So I think that does have an impact slightly on our attendance rates. But you can see where we were district-wide for last year for 23-24, we were at 95.46. This year we're at 94.80 for week 2, and that's a very small difference. So as we continue to go on, I'll fill in the year-to-date, but we're only in week 2, so there's not a whole lot of data to share at this time other than that. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. Bulletin boards. All right, I think I'm going to get it right this time by introducing you to Mr. Mike Bin and Kim Goldstein. Are you guys doing this together?
No, I think I am.
You are. Okay, well, so we traded off. All right, Mr. Bin, take it away.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I am Michael Bin, the Vice Principal of Jacobson Middle School, and this is Ms. Goldstein, the Learning Director of Jacobson. This is our 3rd year incorporating the strategies of capturing kids' hearts at JMS. One of the strategies is greeting students at the door. Here you can see teachers greeting the student at the door. Most teachers greet with a fist pump. So as the kids are coming in, they'll say good morning, good afternoon, and fist pump each student coming into the door. Another strategy of capturing kids' hearts is to create social contracts. This is where students agree on how they will treat each other, how they will be treated by the teacher, and how they will treat each other in times of conflict. Some teachers create a social contract once per class, and some teachers divide the kids into groups, and then each group establishes their own social contracts. All teachers also have the 4 questions posted about student behavior. The idea here is when a student isn't meeting expectations, the questions that a teacher would ask are, what are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? Are you doing it? And what are you going to do about it? Ms. Goldstein already alluded to this, but we do have a new game room that kids are very, very excited about. In the game room, a student could use it during their lunchtime by giving 10 Bulldog bucks. They're able to play a bunch of video games. There's one that has the old Pac-Man and all those 1,000 video games in there the kids love. There's foosball, there's ping pong, there's an axe throwing that we got from the district office, which they love. And so the kids really, I think for a middle school student, this is a great place to hang out. This is our 2nd year implementing EDI strategies. EDI strategies basically focus on good teaching, mostly in collaborative work and having students use academic language. Here you can see the teachers start with having a learning objective up on the board. And that way students understand exactly what their learning objective for that day is. Here's a math classroom where the teacher arranges the desks in a manner to facilitate collaboration. This is one of the 18 rooms that was fully furnished. You can see that the desks there can be arranged in either 2, 3, 4, or usually 5. But the idea is to have the kids engaged in a lesson and they help each other with academic language. Okay. Thank you, board members, for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Ben.
Mr. Ben.
And go to the next slide. We'll do a quick rundown of upcoming dates and events. I just want to remind everybody that we have minimum days for our elementaries and JMS coming up next week for parent conferences. And then we have our next regular board meeting is scheduled on the 8th of October. And just prior to that, the first Tuesday of the month, on the 1st of October, we'll have our Sippin' with the Soup session over at Conan's Bakery, and I encourage everybody to join in. And I didn't include any photos of that from the last time because I forgot to take photos, but we were there. Mr. Kaminsky and Miss Wood joined me, and we had a steady flow all morning, so it was a good morning, and I would encourage anybody who'd like to join in to come on by. And that concludes my update for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. TAT update.
I'll start again. Good evening, Superintendent Larson Everson and esteemed members of the school board. My name is Jessica Smith, and I have the honor of serving as the elementary vice president for TAT, as well as being a fifth grade teacher over at Golden Hills. I am pleased to report on the start of our school year and some key updates across our district. We've had a strong start to the school year. The energy across our campuses has been overwhelmingly positive, and both staff and students have returned excited and ready for the months ahead. I would also like to take a moment and express TAT's deep appreciation for the custodial and maintenance teams. Their hard work in preparing our sites for the new school year was evident as the campuses looked impeccable. Their dedication behind the scenes plays a critical role in creating an inviting and functional learning environment for all. At the elementary level, teachers have been actively engaging with the new iReady math. This has been a significant shift for our team, and we are pleased at how things are progressing. To support our continued development, we have professional development days in October and January, which will provide additional guidance and best practices for successful implementation. The TAT leadership team would also like to thank and highlight the professionalism of the staff and front office at JMS in the response to the unfounded rumors that caused a situation on Friday. Bonnie Porter and the team demonstrated exceptional organization during the checkout process, managing a difficult situation with calm and efficiency. Their actions were commendable and deserving of recognition. Tomorrow is Patriots Day, and we will take a moment to honor the lives lost and the sacrifices made on 9/11, a day that forever changed our nation. Our schools will be recognizing this important event, ensuring that we continue to educate our students on the significance of this day and the heroes that it represents. Next week, teachers will be hosting parent conferences at both elementary and middle schools. Our teachers look forward to meeting with parents, discussing student progress, and working together to ensure that each child reaches their full potential this year. TAT elections are underway, with voting taking place this week from September 9th through September 11th, and by Thursday morning, we will have a new representative council in place, and the TAT leadership looks forward to sharing with that information with you in the near future. Lastly, TAT would like to acknowledge our superintendent and her team for the awesome TUSD t-shirts. They've been a hit across the district. It's wonderful to see something as simple as t-shirts has brought a sense of camaraderie and unity within our schools, and the positive impact has been felt everywhere. Thank you all for your time, and TAT looks forward to continuing our collaborative efforts as well as we navigate another successful school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And CSEA. Not seeing anyone from CSEA, we'll go to board communications. Anyone?
So I'll start. I was able to visit 4 of the 5 schools for open house, or back to school night, excuse me. And it was nice to see. There was a ton of energy. The classrooms were well prepared. The staff was friendly and greeting people at the door, sign-in sheets. It was just fun to see.
Anyone else? Well, the superintendent mentioned sipping with the soup. It's like nice, as she said, nice flow of people visiting. Nobody had to wait very long to get our attention, and it was a good session of back and forth communication. With that, we go to public comments. Public comments will be allowed. The board president will recognize any member of the audience wishing to speak on the items not on the agenda but directly related to school business. Pursuant to Board Bylaw 9323, the board may limit comments to no more than 3 minutes per person. Public comment will also be allowed on each specific action item prior to board action. The president may allot time to those wishing to speak, but no action will be taken on matters presented and no discussion of non-agenda items will occur. If appropriate, the president or any member of the board may direct that the matter be referred to the superintendent's office for placement on a future agenda. And with that, I have Gabrielle Steris.
Okay. So good evening, members of the school board. I stand before you this evening as a God-fearing woman, inspired by the words of Nehemiah 4:14. After I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and daughters, your wives, and your homes. I am here tonight to do exactly that, to fight for our sons and daughters. In my experience, particularly after the recent sexual assault on my daughter on the THS campus, I have seen no effort from anybody to stand up and do what's right for her. Instead of support, I am continually met with an arrogant demeanor and condescending attitude. Since I'm only given 3 minutes to speak, I am more than willing to provide evidence and detailed examples if anyone on the school board would like to inquire further on what has occurred so far in this ongoing state of affairs. TUSD emphasizes the importance of school safety, yet my daughter was sexually assaulted during school hours, and my daughter has not received so much as an apology or acknowledgement that TUSD has failed her. The lack of cameras, security, and supervision, measures that could have prevented the situation, is more than deeply distressing. As a parent and a voting stakeholder in this community, my efforts to follow the proper procedures and navigate the Title IX investigation have been met with resistance. Shockingly, the focus seems to be more on protecting the person who assaulted my daughter rather than supporting her as a victim. Once again, I can provide evidence to support these statements. I quote the superintendent from your website. Strong partnerships with families and the community are essential to the success of our students. I ask of you, the board, to reflect on this statement that was given on your website. Based on my recent experiences and concerns I've raised, this is nothing more than empty words and could not be farther from the reality my daughter and I have faced so far. In closing, Proverbs 9:10 states, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." With that being said, I have 2 questions for you as the school board. First, who guides your decisions and speaks to your conscience when you lay your head on the pillow at night? And second, will this school board take accountability to those you serve and generally work with me and all parents to find solutions and resolve these issues without bureaucracy and self-preservation to an established failing system? And I just would also like to know that my daughter, who was sexually assaulted, is here with me tonight, brave enough to come and give her approval for me to make this statement. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Steris. Any other public comments? Excuse me. With that, we move to item 6, the consent agenda. In order to promote efficient meetings, the board may bundle a number of items and act upon them together by a single vote through the use of a consent agenda. Consent items shall be items of a items of a routine nature and items for which board discussion is not anticipated and for which the superintendent recommends approval. When any board member requests the removal of an item from the consent agenda, the item shall be removed and given individual consideration for action as a regular agenda item. And I know Vice President Kelly wants to bring something up.
I don't think we need to pull anything, but I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that my wife, Maren Kelly's name does appear in the consent agenda under item 15. If I need to recuse myself, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll go forward. Thank you.
No recusal needed.
No. Not a problem. Any other board member want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Hearing nothing, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All motion.
I'll second.
It was motioned by Trustee Sweeney and seconded by Clerk Wood that the board approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. My cursor doesn't want, there it is. Superintendent, item 7, number 1, first read board policies.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. So we're back to that season of the year when we're bringing forward updates to board policy. So district administration has brought forward this evening a variety of policies on topics including safety, food service, board meetings, and more. I'm sure you'll find them very interesting, but all of the updates that have been made have been done in alignment with the recommendations from the California School Boards Association. And it's our intention to bring these same policies back in October for approval. And if you have questions about them, you're more than welcome to reach out to me between now and then or this evening. We try to include in the board summary notes as brief but complete explanation as possible with regard to what each one of them relates to. So that's it on the board policies.
Any questions or comments from the board? If you do have any, please email the superintendent, CC me. I'll be emailing you, but I had a question about one of them, but it's rather minor.
Thank you.
Number 2, approval for Tehachapi Unified School District to participate in Bear Mountain Youth Sports League, BMYSL.
Yes, correct. Thank you. I'm seeking the board's approval for TUSD to participate in the Bear Mountain Youth Sports League. For many years, TUSD has participated in middle school sports, along with several other Kern County districts. Currently, the participating districts include Edison, El Cajon, Fairfax, Arvin, Lakeside, Lamont, Vineland, Taft City, Beardsley, Kernville, Standard, South Fork, and Greenfield. And while there's been a history of middle schools from all of these districts, as well as TUSD, playing sports together competitively, there has been no official league that has been in place. So there was a group of participating superintendents and myself met with legal counsel a few weeks ago to work on bylaws, and that's what has been developed. After we met, we made some other refinements to those bylaws, and from my perspective, having the league be official and have bylaws to guide the participation of all of the participating districts and students, coaches, et cetera, is very important. I have shared the bylaws with the JMS administrative team and athletic director Colin Grimes for input. And Mr. Grimes strongly supports the team's continued participation in the league. He couldn't be here. I think when I gave my golf update, I mentioned that they had a match today. Mr. Grimes, if you don't mind, he sent me an email that he asked that I read just what he wanted to say if he would be here, what he would say at the podium. He said, "Hello, unfortunately, I'm not able to make the board meeting due to a THS women's golf match down in Bakersfield. The Bear Mountain League is a great league that I believe we should remain a part of. This will be my second year as athletic director. All of the schools have been great. The athletic directors and after-school recreation coordinators have been awesome to work with. The students from other schools are competitive and fun to play. The league is run well, and the commissioner does a fantastic job, and everyone is very accommodating. From what I've witnessed, there are solid, healthy rivalries that have been built in this league, and we have our own within the league too. I'd love to keep this going. Our students will also see a lot of these kids when they get to high school as well, which deepens the healthy rivalries even further. I'm also a fan of this league because it consists of a lot of teams that are outside of the Bakersfield area, and we like having those relationships. If you have further questions, please feel free to email me. Thank you for your time, Colin Grimes. So that's what Mr. Grimes had to say. From my perspective, by formalizing the league with a constitution and bylaws, I believe it provides continuity and structure for all the schools and districts who are participating. I also appreciate the support and the guidelines and how it's directed at student safety, concussions, head injury, and protocols, and I think that helps all of us ensure that we're compliant with education code and focused on doing the best we can for our students. So having said all of that, at this time, I'm seeking the board's approval to participate in the newly formed Bear Mountain Youth Sports League, and the cost to the district for the 24-25 school year would be $300. And the contributions from each different district just go to offset the time invested by the commissioner. He's not truly a commissioner. CIF has a commissioner, but Bear Mountain Sports Youth League is going to have their own commissioner, and those contributions from each district go to afford that person to work on the schedules and share the information, call meetings with the athletic directors and so forth. So that's my request this evening. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I have one.
Trustee Navy.
I think this is fantastic. Middle school sports kind of kicked off when I was a kid, and I was on the tail end of it, but the more activity, the better, especially at that age. Learning to be a part of a team is fantastic, and then there is so much, we talk about social, emotional connection with the kids, especially at that age. There is so much value in the social, emotional aspect when kids are part of a team, when they have good coaches and good staff with them. So you're kind of checking multiple boxes there. So that's super exciting. I know it's already been kind of in place. It's nice to have something official. I think it'll give the community a little bit of a trust and understanding that this is a long-term investment to our kids in the middle school aspect. So I know that they offer other sports that we haven't quite dove into yet. Flag football and a few different other things obviously it's probably a little late for this year, but is that the goal next year, is to try to dive into more of those?
So I think that's probably a conversation that needs to go further. When I spoke with Mr. Grimes, we spoke for about 45 minutes last week, and some of the perspective on our side is that there's a lot of community activity around that age group for football, and not wanting to step on anybody's toes or encroach on other programs. Maybe we need to coordinate with some of the other leagues and groups that are happening here within the community. That was part of our conversation, is what would that look like going forward. And right now, as example, the league is not doing track and field. The league is looking at adding track and field at a later date, as well as cross country. But we have a tradition of doing track and field here in TUSD, and so we do participate and compete with other schools like Ridgecrest and some that are down in the Antelope Valley as well for different sports, and depending on what the athletic directors are able to coordinate and work out. Sometimes for track and field, it's more of like an invitational style competition. So I know he's very open to it and excited to be working with the students and young athletes. So I think we're just looking it all over as we go forward, as well as is the league. When we got together as superintendents, there was a lot of conversation about adding in additional sports. And again, one of the benefits of having a league and bylaws is that we're trying to ensure equity, right? So that there's equal opportunities for both boys and girls to participate in athletics, no matter what's being offered. That's kind of the overview of our conversation at that end.
Yeah, sounds good. I think you were implying that the local Tehachapi Youth Football League, TYF, I grew up playing that. My kids played it. I hope that we don't consider that an obstacle for our kids to play flag football. flag football is a very different dynamic for kids. Some parents don't want their kids playing football, so flag football is a great alternative. So I would highly recommend that we push into that and just do the best we can to offer that. Tackle football is a very different sport. It's completely different. So I hope that we're not being persuaded or bullied into, we already got a football program in this town, but it's very different. So Park and Rec a handful of years ago kicked off a flag football program in this town. It was very successful. I don't know if they still do it or not. My kids are a little older for that, but it was a very successful program. So it's okay to have options. We're not competitors. We're providing opportunity for kids. So let's not be
Agree, and that
persuaded in
wasn't
that
my
direction.
sense from Mr. Grimes at all. We were just talking about like what we've been doing here traditionally has been, we've been doing volleyball in the fall, and then basketball in the spring, and then track and field, or basketball in the winter, and then track and field in the spring. And we were just kind of talking out loud. That was some of what was talked about. And I'm sure he'd be open to maybe having it discussed at the SSC, at JMS, and having some parent input come into that as well, just as it goes forward. Thank you.
I have a minor question. The $300, is that a contract we're going to have to approve later, or are we just going to get an invoice and send them a check?
It's just by your approval. Once I have your approval, I will sign that we agree to participate in, and then they'll send us an invoice and we'll pay it.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? And I would just suggest to Mr. Grimes and the students at JMS to think outside the box and maybe propose a sport that isn't traditional. I mean, it's middle school, like you were saying, we're not, they're not governed by CIF. It might take off, who knows? Like pick a ball, who knows? All right, do I have a motion from a board member to approve the Tehachapi Unified School District's participation in the Bear Mountain Youth Sports League, BMYSL, as presented?
Kelly, I make the motion.
I'll second.
It was motioned by Vice President Kelly and seconded by Trustee Napier. The board approved Tehachapi Unified School District's participation in the Bear Mountain Youth Sports League as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Item 3 under the superintendent, approval to cancel December 10th, 2024 regular board meeting and designate new meeting date of December 17th, 2024.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. I know it gets a little bit confusing, but Education Code requires that each school district in Kern County hold an annual organizational meeting within a 15-day period that commences on December 13th. And so December 13th is the first day, that Friday, that the results of the election, those who are elected via the election, become eligible to serve in their role. So that's why it has to be after that date and within 15 days following that date. So due to the timing of the current board elections, this is what legal counsel has reminded us of. And once those elections conclude, as I said, December 13th is the magic date for the newly elected board members. So this is the reason for adjusting the meeting the second Friday in December, which is December 13th, and requesting that we move it ahead to December 17th. And the actual organizational meeting has to be agreed upon by the board at the meeting that precedes that. So the November board meeting would be the date that the board takes action on when to hold the organizational meeting. But we have to identify that date as a regular meeting date because an organizational meeting cannot happen at a special meeting. It has to happen at a regularly scheduled board meeting. So I know that's a lot of explanation to say, but this is why we need to move it from the 10th to the 17th.
Any questions or comments from the board? Do I have a motion that the board approve to cancel the December 10th, 2024 regular board meeting and designate a new date of December 17th, 2024 as presented?
Kelly, I make the motion.
Second.
It was motioned by Vice President Kelly, seconded by Trustee Cooper, that the board approve to cancel the December 10th, 2024 regular board meeting and designate a new date of December 17th, 2024 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Item 4, approval to adopt resolution number 01 SEP24, acknowledging 2024 Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd to the 31st, 2024. Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. As I'm sure you're all aware, that Red Ribbon Week campaign is a nationally recognized program designed to encourage drug prevention and awareness, as well as promote positive and healthy behaviors for our students. And this is why we bring this forward each year, including this year, to recognize that week and begin the celebration with our students.
The resolution states, 2024 Red Ribbon, life is a movie, film, drug-free. Whereas schools throughout the nation, as well as local organizations, acknowledge October 23rd to 31st. There's a mistake. 2024, as it says 23.
2024, I think we can correct it as
Yeah,
you're reading that.
that's a
Can you
minor
make a
one.
notation of that? Thank you.
As the National
Sorry, Mrs.
2024 Red Ribbon Campaign, and whereas it is imperative that schools and communities launch unified and visible prevention education programs and activities to eliminate the use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs by youth, and whereas parents, youth, government, businesses, law enforcement, schools, faith-based, and community organizations, and the general public will demonstrate their commitment to drug-free communities by displaying red ribbons during this week-long campaign. And whereas the California State Board of Education encourages the commitment of time and resources to ensure the success of the 2024 Red Ribbon Campaign and year-round prevention education efforts. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tehachapi Unified School District Board of Trustees adopts resolution number 01 SEP24 to proclaim October 23rd to 31st, 2024 to be 2024 Red Ribbon Week, and encourages all parents, students, schools, businesses, institutions, organizations, and individuals throughout the community of Tehachapi to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free, healthy lifestyles. Any motions from the board?
Kelly, make the motion.
I'll second.
It was motioned by Vice President Kelly and seconded by Trustee Sweeney. The board approve adoption resolution number 01 SEP24 acknowledging 2024 Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd to 31st, 2024 as presented. It's a roll call vote. Ms. Barnes?
President Kaminsky.
Aye.
Vice President Kelly.
Aye.
Clerk Wood.
Aye.
Trustee Cooper.
Aye.
Trustee Napier.
Aye.
Trustee Sweeney.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries 6-0. Number 5, approval to adopt resolution number 02 SCP-24 acknowledging Week of the School Administrator, October 14th to 18th, 2024. Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. The CDE encourages the public to recognize October 14th through the 18th as Week of the School Administrator in observance of the importance of educational leaders at school, within the district, at the county levels, and the second full week in the month of October each year is designated as Week of the Administrator. And we know we're very proud of our school administrators here in Tehachapi and appreciate their dedication to our students, their hard work, their leadership, their collaboration, and all that they do to support successful student achievement here in TUSD. So we bring this forward this evening for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. And this resolution states, Week of the School Administrator, whereas leadership matters for California's public education system and the more than 6 million students it serves. Whereas school administrators are passionate, lifelong learners who believe in the value of quality public education. And whereas the title school administrator is a broad term used to define many education leadership posts. Superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, assistant principals, learning directors, special education and adult education leaders, curriculum and assessment leaders, school business officials, classified educational leaders, and other school district employees are considered administrators. And whereas providing quality service for student success is paramount for the profession. And whereas most school administrators began their careers as teachers, the average administrator has served in publication for more than a decade. Such experience is beneficial in their work to effectively and efficiently lead public education and improve student achievement. And whereas school leaders depend on a network of support from school communities, fellow administrators, teachers, parents, students, businesses, community members, board trustees, colleges and universities, community and faith-based organizations, elected officials, and district and county staff and resources to promote ongoing student achievement and school success. And whereas research shows great schools are led by great leadership, these site leaders are supported by extensive administrative networks throughout the state. And whereas the state of California has declared October 14th, 18th, 2024 as the Week of the School Administrator, Education Code 44015.1. And whereas the future of California's public education system depends upon the quality of its leadership. So now therefore be it resolved by the Tehachapi Unified School District that all school leaders be commended for the contributions they make to successful student achievement. Do I have a motion from the board?
Kelly, make the motion.
Second.
It was motioned by Vice President Kelly, seconded by Trustee Cooper. The board approved to adopt resolution number 02 SEP 24, acknowledging Week of the School Administrator, October 14th to 18th, 2024, as presented. Roll call vote again.
President Kaminsky.
Aye.
Vice President Kelly.
Aye.
Clerk Wood.
Aye.
Trustee Cooper.
Aye.
Trustee Napier.
Aye.
Trustee Sweeney.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries 6-0. Item 6, appointment of labor negotiators. The board will consider and possibly take action to appoint one or more labor negotiators to represent the board during 2024-2025 negotiations with the Tehachapi Association of Teachers and California School Employees Association in its Chapter 466. The board will identify in open session any representatives designated. Proposed negotiators, Superintendent Stacy Larson Everson, Hojat Intezari, Chief Administrator of Business Services, and Candace Bedoyan, DWK Legal Counsel. Any questions or comment? Or I'm sorry, we have to go to Superintendent. I have to read all of that, I forgot.
I know. Well, I'm sorry, I have to read just a little bit of the government code, because government code section 54957.6 provides that notwithstanding any other provision of the law, a legislative body of a local agency, like the school district, may hold closed sessions with the local agency's designated representatives regarding the salaries, salary schedules, or compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits to its represented and unrepresented employees, and for represented employees, any other matter within the statutorily provided scope of representation. And that's why we designate these representatives with the board, because that enables for us to provide negotiations, updates, and get guidance from the board how to proceed with those negotiations. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the board? Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of labor negotiators? The board will consider and possibly take action to appoint one or more as I named them.
I'll make the motion.
Kelly, a second.
It was motioned by Clerk Wood, seconded by Vice President Kelly. The board approved the appointment of labor negotiators and take action to appoint one or more labor negotiators to represent the board during 2024-2025 negotiations with the Tehachapi Association of Teachers and its California School Employees Association in its Chapter 466. The board has identified in open session the representatives would be that are proposed are Superintendent Stacy Larson Everson, Hojat Intezari, Chief Administrator of Business Services, and Candace Bedoyan, DWK Legal Counsel, as presented. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Intezari, number 8, business. First item, certification of unaudited actuals for the 2023-2024 school year.
Thank you, President Kaminsky. So today I'm going to be presenting the unaudited actuals. So whenever I'm up here talking about our budgets, these are, we're talking about estimates. Unaudited actuals is just now that we have closed the books, we haven't had them audited yet, but this is where The revenues actually fell, the money that was actually spent as of last year, and what that impact is on our fund balance. And so I'm proud to report that our estimations on the revenue are very close. Expenditures, we typically see that we don't spend all the money that we set aside by June, and it starts to push into the summer. But we do issue purchase orders for these services to get started. So a lot of times our expenses are conservatively estimated, but our revenues have been pretty close to spot on, which we're proud of. Next slide. So we're just going to touch on revenues, expenditures, and then talk about the components of ending fund balance. Next slide. So the revenues. So we were, once we closed, we determined that we had $52.9 million in unrestricted revenues, with $48.3 million being made up of the LCFF, so the attendance money, which was within less than 1% of what we had estimated. So we were pretty close there, just a little short. But that was really good news because, again, this is what the state finally reconciles the numbers to be based on the attendance that we reported all year. On the restricted side, we spent about $15.62 million. That makes up Title I, special education, the expanded learning program, after-school programs, as well as those block grants that we've been diligently using. So in all, we ended up with $68.535 million to start the year, or to finish the year. Next slide. So the good news is that on the expenditure side, on the unrestricted, we spent about $45 million, and on the restricted, almost $24 million, totaling $67.667 million, bringing us to a positive of $867,605. That does not mean that, we just made money last year. It's just a lot of the expenditures were pushed into the next year. We maximized a lot of restricted funding sources just to make sure that those funds don't expire or that they're maximized. And then we also had some one-time money that came from the closeout of the bond that was issued that built the high school. Now that all of those payments are complete, there was about $260,000 that came into the general fund that was not something that we were expecting. But here on the expenditures, right, this is what we do control, most of the money being made up of salaries and benefits for teachers and classified staff, with a lot going to benefits. But we have a breakdown comparison on the next slide for you just to kind of bring it into perspective. So here's a comparison of how much has been spent, how much we estimated. So in May, trying to show what June 30 was going to look like. In salaries, we estimate about $23.5 million, but it actually ended up being 24.2. Classified salaries, 12.3, but ended up being 12.1. Same down the line, just very close. We in a lot of areas, especially in the services, supplies, assets, just the stuff that you buy, we did project higher than it actually ended up being, but all in all, pretty close. Next slide, please. So here's just a comparison. This is the same comparison, but now we're comparing what next year's budget is in the green compared to the orange, which is what we actually spent this year. So you'll see that certificated salaries is just a little bit less. I did receive a question about this, and it's because it's important to consider that we had a 5% off-schedule payment last year, so you can think of that you paid 105% of certificated salaries. That doesn't take into account any time someone is absent, or if someone terminated, or the fact that we do have attrition, right? So if a teacher retires last year and now we replace them with a new teacher, that's a big gap that we don't experience on the classified staff as much. For classified, all the expenses you can tell are either pretty close or a little bit higher. We do anticipate spending significantly less in all the way at the bottom down in capital outlay. That's just those really big ticket things as our revenues start to be less predictable and less one-time money. We start to slow down on the stuff, but not, school classroom supplies, nothing like that. Just more of those improvements that we've been doing, those really large projects. Next slide, please. So for the fiscal outlook, COLA and inflation still an issue. Inflation, right, is an issue for everybody. But we do have, we're being told that the cost of living adjustment is in the positive for the next 2 years. We don't know if that's going to be the case. Those numbers change all the time. So if they do change, we're at least in a position to respond. So while inflation is a large consideration, stuff is not really where our issue is. It's just really in making sure that those salaries and benefits are matching the cost of actual living for our employees. In regards to attendance, so we always project a 1% decline, or at least lately, just based on our history, that we've been either pretty flat, minimal decline. This year, so while we were expecting a 1% decline, it looks like we're closer to 1.8%. The year is young, but we do, this is just something that we don't know, right? Tehachapi is in a state where where declining enrollment is pretty common, but we're also the part of the state where people are moving to, where families are finding kind of a place that's more affordable to them. So it's really hard to predict whether this is going to go up or down. But it is something that we're monitoring and keeping a close eye on, because that 1%, that's something like $500,000 that could be an impact to us. In regards to fund balance, proud to report that the district ended the year with $19.17 million. Our 9% reserve is $5.6 million, with another $9.6 million going to the unfunded OPEB, so that's the other post-employment benefits. So when we offer teachers or classified employees that have been here for a certain amount of service time and decide to retire at a certain age, they are eligible for certain benefits that are not that you're not going to see in the certificated salary group, or that you're not going to see in actual expenses, but it's money that we know is good, an expense that's going to come. It's a liability. And the actuarial study has that worth $9.6 million. So it's good to show that we have that we can afford that benefit that we're offering. We've set aside almost $2 million for TK facilities upgrades, $1 million for textbooks, $700,000 for technology, and we have about $223,000 unassigned. So all in all, this reflects a really strong balance sheet. The district has significant in excess of the minimum reserves that's being expected. We are diligent about making sure that there isn't anything that could happen to us that would, knock us out, right? There's always going to be surprises or major expenses, or maybe the revenues don't come through as they're supposed to, but at least the fund balance has us in a position to be able to respond accordingly without having to do any kind of emergency maneuvers that we see more common throughout our industry with our neighbors. But that's all I have for the unaudited actuals. Are there any questions?
I have to find the attendance report we talked about yesterday. Anybody else have a question or comment?
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm not going to, it's like on one of the last slides, so I'm not going to scroll through all 100. But we talked yesterday, and there was our ADA, average daily attendance. If you could explain it's 75 less than the previous year. Quickly tell us how that could, not necessarily will, but could affect us in future budget years.
Yes, so the average daily attendance is our enrollment, but prorated for absences, right? So if a kid comes to school every day, that's one ADA. And for each grade level that they're in is a different amount that we are eligible for. And then there's also variance for what kind of demographic they come from, where they might be eligible for more money. If we see a decline in enrollment, well, then there's a decline in ADA, because those students are going to come there's not as many students coming to school. If we see a decline in the rate that they go to school from 95% of the time to 94% of the time, that could also impact that number. Fortunately, the way the funding formula works for California school districts is that you get either the highest of this year, last year, or what your last 3-year average has been. So knowing that last year's attendance is higher, we know that it's at least a little more predictable. But that means that then the following year, now we're going to be eligible for less if we continue down the road. So a 1% decline when our LCFF money is 48 million, right? 1% of that would be 480,000. So, even a small drop of 1% still has a major financial impact. And then if that continues to go, because some of your expenses are kind of stuck, right? The cost of the light bill for the classroom is going to stay the same, supplies, the cost of the teacher, all of that stuff. But if the amount of students aren't there, then and that top line revenue doesn't come in, the expenses are going to have to follow. Sorry, I know you said short. My apologies.
Thank you. I just wanted the board to see that this could be an issue in the incoming years.
Certainly,
And
incoming
it has
years.
been. Declining enrollment attendance is almost probably the last 20 years, and it might be being conservative. So, thank you. So it's been recommended the board approve the certification of unaudited actuals for the 2023-2024 fiscal year as presented. Do I have a motion?
Kelly, make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Vice President Kelly, seconded by Trustee Sweeney, that the board approve certification of unaudited actuals for the 2023-2024 fiscal year as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Number 2, approval of the agreement between County of Kern and Tehachapi Unified School District El Rancho Drive Communications Site. Mr. Intezari.
Thank you, President Kaminsky. This lease agreement is for rack space as well as tower space for ultra-high frequency radio communication for our transportation department, specifically for our buses. Our current system does not offer the ability to communicate from the transportation department all the way past our, to the end of our school boundaries. This additional lease space is estimated to cost $500 a month, which would increase every 5-year option, but it's for at least 5 years, and will provide us the opportunity to be able to communicate safely. Currently, when they can't reach someone, they have to relay, so they'll ask a bus driver that's further out but within reach, and then that person would relay to the much closer bus. Now, that's just one less thing the bus drivers have to worry about, and something to just improve the way our transportation department operates. We seek your approval for this lease agreement.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, is there a motion for the board to approve the agreement between County of Kern and Tehachapi Unified School District El Rancho Drive Communications Site as presented?
Kelly, make the motion.
Second.
This motion by Vice President Kelly, seconded by Trustee Cooper. The board approve the agreement between County of Kern and Tehachapi Unified School District El Rancho Drive Communications Site. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Intezari. Item 9, instructional services. Mrs. Paxton. Number 1, information item, request for extended field learning experiences.
All right, good evening. Per Board Policy 6153, all field trips that extend 100 miles or more beyond the boundaries of the school district shall be subject to the approval of the superintendent, and the superintendent has approved the following field trips. Tehachapi High School's CTE field trip to Kern County Career Expo at the Career and Technical Education Center in Bakersfield, California on April 4th, 2025. And Tehachapi High School's CTE Graphic Design field trip to Saracoso Community College, commencement in Ridgecrest, California on May 16th, 2025.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll go to number 2, information item, interdistrict attendance request report. Mrs. Paxton.
All right. In alignment with Education Code 48313, the superintendent or designee shall keep an accounting of all requests for admittance and a record of their disposition, including but not limited to all of the following. So the number of requests granted, denied, withdrawn, the number of students transferred into and out of the district, and the race, ethnicity, gender, self-reported socioeconomic economic status, eligibility for free and reduced price meals, the district of residence for each student transferred into or out of the district, and the number of students transferred into or out of the district pursuant to the programs who are classified as English learners or students with disabilities, and as applicable, the number of students described in items 3 and 4 who provided transportation assistance to a district or school program. And so in our district, we had 1 transfer denial, we accepted 20 inter-district transfers from surrounding districts that included Mojave, Bakersfield City, Caliente, and Taft. And then we had 9 students that resided within the boundaries of TUSD that elected to take their child to a district outside of TUSD's boundaries. And all of those students went to a district due to their parents' employment.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, thank you. That last statement answered the question I had in mind. So, number 3, approval of Tehachapi High School Future Farmers of America, FFA, Agriculture Advisory Committee nominees. Mrs. Paxton.
The TUSD agricultural course is required to have a Future Farmers of America, or FFA, advisory committee. The committee is composed of members of the community that serve as a partner to the agricultural school program and will be a resource to the program. Committee members were nominated by the school principal. THS seeks approval of 13 nominees. The formation of the THS FFA Agricultural Committee was approved at the June 25th, 2024 regular board meeting, and we seek your approval.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I need a motion for us to approve the Tehachapi High School Future Farmers of America FFA Agriculture Advisory Committee nominees as presented.
All motion.
Kelly, a second.
This motion by Trustee Sweeney, seconded by Vice President Kelly, that the board approve the Tehachapi High School Future Farmers of America FFA Agriculture Advisory Committee members as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Paxton.
Thank you.
Future items. Any board member wish to put something on the agenda or request a report? Seeing none, item 11, lunch. Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. I'm going to invite our principal from Tompkins Elementary, Ms. Claire Ray, to share her lunch with us this evening.
Good evening again. So I selected this quote because I think it perfectly captures the excitement and the potential of starting a new school year filled with fresh opportunities and possibilities. A new school year means new beginnings, new adventures, new friendships, and new challenges. The slate is clean and anything can happen. So here's to a wonderful new school year.
Hooray.
All right, thank you. Everybody has A's right now, right? Sorry, that's not on the agenda. Item 12, public comments for closed session. Are there any public comments for closed session? Keep in mind that number 1 under closed session has been pulled. Okay, item 2 for closed session is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, one case, And number 3, public employment title superintendent tenure. At this time, we will, and that time would be 6:20. We are adjourned to go into closed session. We are leaving closed session, coming into open session at 7:08. And there's no report out on item number 3, public employment title, superintendent tenure. There is a report out for number 2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2, one case. In the matter of conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D2, one case, the board approved a settlement agreement with student to resolve issues related to student's educational program. The agreement provides for independent assessments, compensatory services, and associated legal fees. And the item passed with a 6-0 vote. And with that, we're at item number 16, adjournment at 7:09.